controlling version than some that we've seen. He's not playing. He's not playing with Reckoners. He is playing with some Essence Scatters, some Dissipates, a lot of counter Rewinds, a lot of counter magic for a blue-white-red list.
Yeah, and he's got the one copy of the Aurelia and one copy of Thundermaw Hellkite, which we've been seeing some of these blue-red-white decks. They've been cutting their 3-drops and just playing a little more higher-end threats to be a little more robust.
Well, it is important with these decks to close out games pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they
that's
can struggle
true.
with that.
Yeah. And Orrin is on Jund, typical Jund deck that you've been seeing Reed Duke and Owen Turgenwald being very big proponents of. 2 Arbor Elf version, basically acting as a 5th and 6th Farseek. An assortment of removal from Bonfire Dam to Mizium Mortars to Murder to Dreadbore.
Interesting numbers there. I mean, only 2 Bonfires, only 1 Liliana. I think that's unusual for a lot of lists that I've seen.
I think we saw a couple of... well, Orrin's very close with some of the Florida players, and I know last week in Orlando, John Culliver and a couple other players made top 8 with a similar Jund deck where they had 2 Garrux and 1 Liliana as their sort of Planeswalker mix. And I believe he has 2 Vampire Nighthawks main, and along with 2 Ground Seals, which we saw Reed Duke play at the Mox tournament.
Yeah, he's definitely been pioneering those Ground Seals main. And here we can see Nick off to kind of a slow start. No Shockland, so his M duels are all coming into play tapped. Definitely slowing him down a little bit. Can't play his Think Twice here on turn 2. Whereas Orrin has kind of the optimal start of a turn 2 Farseek, kind of getting him off to the races.
Yeah, and this is one of the reasons I think Jund's a fine deck, but it's very frustrating to play against or even watch because sometimes if the deck doesn't have a Farseek, it looks pretty bad sometimes.
It can definitely be very clunky.
But again, turn 2 Farseek, and Nick doesn't even have access to Essence Scatter, which we know he has in his deck.
Yep.
But because of those M13 duels, he actually needed to have them all come into play tapped.
And Orrin wasting no time here after an aggressive start, just running that Olivia out there and just to start attacking for 3.
Yeah, and a lot of these blue-red-red control decks aren't playing 4 copies of Searing Spirit. Some of them are playing 3. Some of them are cheating, even going down as low as 1 or 2 copies, similar to a list that Jerry T posts.
That was what our list when we were testing for the PT was on 1 Searing Spirit, 1 or 2 Pillar Flames. Mm-hmm. We cut a lot of the burn out of the deck, and I think that for a while was conventional. Now I think it's gone back to typically have 3, maybe 4, but and here we can see Nick is playing 3.
So really good start from Orrin here. Nick doesn't have really much going on in the form of removal, and now Orrin has both a Thragtusk and an Olivia in play.
Ooh, but there we see a great draw in that Supreme Verdict, but still the land's coming tapped.
Yep. Wow.
So this is awkward. Does he want to use an Azorius Charm to mitigate, to kind of balance his life total? That's going to interact poorly with his Verdict land. He probably just has to take this 8. Maybe even more. Orrin could decide to ping the Thragtusk twice to make it 10, potentially, if he doesn't want to commit more to the board.
Yeah, it looks like Orrin has a Farseek. He also has a Bonfire, so maybe he wants to try to do enough damage here where Bonfire might be able to finish it off.
Hardcast Bonfire is going to have a hard time killing anyone, obviously, with that double X casting cost.
Yeah, but he's going to be able to do 8 here at least, dropping Nick to 9. Maybe he wants to drop him down to 8.
It looks like he is pinging here.
So yeah, because even a Supreme Verdict will get still net Orrin a 3/3 beast.
Yep.
So he's going to drop Nick to 8 here, and theoretically, even if Nick does have a Supreme Verdict, he'll be able to drop Nick to 5 next turn. And again, Bonfire for 3, puts him in a little more range to just top deck, second Bonfire, or maybe just killing him with a top deck.
What do you think about the decision? What do you think about the decision here to leave 2 up instead of picking again? Is he playing around unsummoned there? Is he afraid of getting the Olivia unsummoned and not be able to recast it? What?
Yeah, I'm not sure I like that play because, again, there's not really many there's not many instant speed spells that can't kill 2 toughness or 1 toughness. So if you're going to ping once, you might as well ping twice.
Yep.
He might be afraid of unsummon, but that's not really a popular card. So I think you might want to be a little more aggressive, but especially if your plan is to just cast Farseek this turn anyway.
Yeah, I feel like we may have left a point on the table there, but I'm not sure. Interesting. Saying go, not playing Supreme Verdict here.
So
this is a confusing line to me. So we didn't Azorius Charm last turn.
I think he might be trying to. I think he might be trying to be a little too greedy here because he wants to deal with both the Thragtusk and the token. Because now he has an Essence Scatter and a Dissipate. I just don't think he has enough time.
I agree.
Because
Orrin can just potentially call this and just ping the Thragtusk 3 times and just try to kill Nick. Oh, that's a very aggressive line. Nick has another Azorius Charm.
If he wasn't willing to do that last turn, I'm not sure how much he's willing to do this turn.
Yep.
Especially with this line of play, Nick could be telegraphing that he doesn't have a Supreme Verdict, possibly. Nick obviously has an Essence Scatter and another land. Because of the island, the Glacial Fortress will be able to come into play and tap. So I think Nick's plan is to just hope that he doesn't have burn to kill me, cast Supreme Verdict, and then Essence Scatter the Thragtusk, which is a reasonable line.
Sure, but no, I actually agree with you there. So here I think it's just kind of how much do we want to do. Put him down to 3. We're going to keep going. Interesting. It looks like we are going to keep going.
Well, and now, again, he has the Bonfire, so Bonfire becomes very relevant right here.
And now, though, I think we're seeing, that extra point we could have done last turn, certainly having an impact here. But I agree. I mean, just being able to kill him now with next turn just bonfiring him for 2 is going to be hard for Nick to come back from here.
Yeah, and he has a Dissipate, but he won't have enough mana to cast Supreme Verdict and Dissipate. So it looks like Bonfire should be able to finish things off here.
I feel like that was a greedy line for Nick. I would have much rather just cast Supreme Verdict there, taken the 3 from the token, and then Azorius Charm the token the next turn.
Yeah, because you have to assume that Orrin's probably going to go for max damage there, just because if you had 2 Azorius Charms or Seeing Spear, you probably would have used them already.
Right.
So it's unlikely you drew a second one. Orrin probably considering whether or not there's a negate in the main deck of Nick's deck. Possibly Syncopate, but I think even he has enough mana to play around Syncopate.
He does, yeah. Just Bonfire for 2.
Yep.
So I think that's a spot where Nick, obviously playing, I don't think Nick missed those lines. I think Nick was just choosing what level to play on, chose to go.
Yeah, it was an aggressive line, I think, but
may have leveled himself a little bit there. I think he tried to get a little trickier than he needed to be, and got himself into a little bit more trouble than he could handle.
I think sometimes when you see players who feel like they're very far behind, they'll try to take more of those aggressive lines to feel like they need to. When in reality, maybe if you're just a little more patient, you could be okay. Again, your start was very slow, Orrin's start was very good, but you have cards that can pull you out of this, so maybe if you're a little more patient, you don't have to take those type of lines.
So now looking at the sideboard here for Nick, we're looking at 2 Thundermaw Hellkites, 2 Negates, 2 Clones. Interesting card in this kind of matchup. 3 Izzet Staticasters, 3 Dispels, 1 Pillar of Flame, 1 Supreme Verdict, and 1 more Aurelia, the War Leader. What do you think Nick wants to bring in here?
Whenever I was testing Blue Red White against Jund, what I felt was most important was having permission, because again, they don't have Cavernous Souls, so cards like Essence Scatter, Rewind, Dissipate, they're actually pretty good against Jund, particularly if Jund doesn't have to turn to Farseek, because Jund really isn't that. Jund is fairly top heavy. I mean, Huntmaster, Thragtusk, their threats are pretty high end. So if a card like Essence Scatter or Negate to stop a Rakdos Return or Primal Hunter, which are cards that are very good against you, I think Negate has to come in. I kind of like Thundermaw and Aurelia in this matchup because
just go big.
They're just go big. Typical against any sort of green-based deck. Being able to go big in the air is usually a solid way to win the game because you can close it out quickly. And, it has a big enough toughness to get around cards like Mizzium Mortars or Bonfire of the Damned.
And presumably, Orrin's going to be boarding out a little bit of a spot removal, probably. Not necessarily, but one thing I like to be able to do is, you trade 1 for 1. Multiple times, Jund's a 1 for 1 kind of deck. And then you either pop off a large Revelation to win, or you 1 for 1 a bunch, then your last threat, which survives, is a Hellkite or Aurelia, which will just kill them on its own.
Yeah, and
I really like that.
And I think if you consider that you're probably expecting the Jund deck to probably bring in Slaughter Games for your Sphinx of Revelations, you kind of need more threats because you can't really rely on those Sphinx of Revelations as much anymore, because there's a good chance they could just cast Slaughter Games, and suddenly you'll have like 3 copies of Think Twice as your only card drawing, and it's really hard for you to try to go one-on-one when that's all you have.
What do you think then about, probably want to board out those Pillar Flames. Pretty low impact in this kind of a matchup.
Yeah, I don't think Pillar Flame is that great in this matchup.
Azorius Charm could probably come out potentially as well, or even Searing Spear.
I really don't like Augur of Bolus in this matchup, because the problem is you're bringing in more creatures, and Augur of Bolus just isn't very good against Jund. Obviously, it's good if you hit for once and then you're able to Restoration Angel and hit again. But the problem is, if you blank with Augur of Bolus, just having a 1/3 is so terrible against a deck that's bringing in Duress, that has Liliana Veil, that has Rakdos Return. You just can't afford to brick with a 1/3.
Yep.
It's just too devastating. So I think Augur Bolts is pretty bad in this matchup. I don't really like Pillar Flame.
Yeah, I think Pillar Flame definitely goes.
Yeah.
The one upside, so you mentioned Liliana the Veil when you were talking about Augur Bolts. I actually think that's one reason why the card keeps a little bit of value. It's nice having him to throw around is to toss to the Edict to protect your better guys like your Thundermaw Hellkites and your Aurelias.
Yeah,
There's a little bit of upside still there.
I think there's a little upside there, but generally I think that a card, usually you can get like a Restoration Angel or Snapcaster in play at that point to sort of mitigate cards like Liliana the Veil.
Sure.
And again, there's not a card like Thundermaw Hellkite or Aurelia are usually going to close the games out pretty quickly.
Yep.
And if you're in the position where you're casting those cards, generally you've controlled the board state enough where they don't have enough pressure. So I'm fine with them just down-ticking a Liliana and killing my guy because I'm generally going to be pretty far ahead at that point.
The last card I'm wondering about is, what do you about Clone?
I don't love Clone in this matchup. Obviously, it's good against killing an opposing Olivia.
Yeah.
Copying a Thragtusk is fine.
But copy your own Hellkite potentially.
Yeah, but the problem with Clone is that if you're ahead, it's not really going to help you that much, and it doesn't help you against cards like Rakdos Return or Garruk Primal Hunter, which are really devastating against you. So I think it's fine, but I think it's probably going to sit in the board for. I think generally Clone only really wants to come in against decks with Angel Serenity.
And the last question I have for you is Supreme Verdict. How's that in this matchup? What do you think about there?
I don't love Supreme Verdict. I think Mizium Mortars is kind of useful at cleaning up some. If Garruk Primal Hunter sort of gets out of control, it helps you clean it up, and maybe one of your flyers can actually kill the Primal Hunter.
Sure.
I don't know if I'd board in another Supreme Verdict. I might even cut one of the ones I have in the main, just because, again, Orrin's really not going to be overloading the board with creatures.
Sure.
He's generally going to be trying to disrupt your hand with cards like Duress, Liliana, Rakdos Return, and he has cards like Underworld Connections too that can just reload his hand.
Yep.
So generally, I don't think Supreme Verdict's probably good enough.
Here we see Nick taking a mulligan, going to 6. Orrin looks like he's thinking about a 7. One downside, I think, for Nick, he doesn't have, you mentioned Underworld Connections, doesn't have any Detention Spheres to take that card out. If that card resolves, it's sticking in play, and that could be problematic and give Orrin a real advantage in the late game.
Yeah, because if Orrin's able to resolve an Underworld Connection and then Slaughter Game Strings Violation, suddenly he's drawing more cards, he has life gain, he has more removal. Suddenly his deck is just the better control deck, and Nick just can't do anything.
Yeah, my guess here for Nick's sideboarding, he's probably going to cut the 2 Pillar Flames. My guess is I agree with you, he probably cuts 1 Verdict. And I wouldn't be surprised if he cuts like 2 Azorius Charms.
Yeah.
I think he's going to bring in the Aurelia, both Thundermaw Hellkites, both Negates, and I would not be surprised if he brings in those clones. I think they actually do have a little bit of value here, and maybe cuts the Augur Bolts to make that room.
Yeah, no, again, I think Clone definitely has some value, particularly if you think that they have cards like if they have Thundermaw Hellkites of their own, being able to clone it and then using a Mizium Mortars to kill the Thundermaw because of the ability.
Yeah, that's a good interaction.
That you could randomly, and plus if you have an Aurelia in play, copying their Thundermaw Hellkite with a clone, it's an additional threat you can have. So yeah, and again, it's just another threat. Copying a Thragtusk is always good against Jones.
Looks like Nick here kept on 6, a very mana heavy hand, shuffling around a lot of lands up there in the front. Orrin also has a lot of lands, it looks like. So it might be off to a pair of slow starts here, although it looks like it's a murder that he just drew.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of lands, a Sphinx Violation, and a Mizium Mortars. So, or is that even
I think it's a Supreme Verdict.
Might be a Supreme Verdict. So yeah, not an ideal hand against Jund.
Orrin had the Farseek hiding there, which is certainly what he wants to be doing here on turn 2. Looking here at Orrin's sideboards, when you get a chance to get to that, we mentioned those Underworld Connections, certainly very powerful. Also has 2 Duresses, another Rakdos Return, and a pair of Slaughter Games. And usually a card I haven't seen a lot of, one Vraska.
Yeah,
it's kind of a spicy one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure what matchup he'd really want that card in. Maybe in the mirror. In this matchup, though, I wouldn't expect him to probably bring it in.
I agree with you there.
Definitely Underworld, definitely Duress. Probably the Slaughter Games as well.
And maybe part of that Rakdos Return is my guess.
Yeah,
and probably actually that Liliana too, right? So that's 8 cards he's looking to bring in potentially. It's a lot of cards to come in.
Yeah.
Here we actually see to cut into the game here, we see a Slaughter Games being cast on turn 3. Probably naming Sphinx Revelation would be my guess, seeing that Nick's hand is really blank.
Yeah, honestly, I'm surprised Nick would keep this hand, because generally, if you don't have a card like Think Twice or Sphinx Revelation in your opener, obviously it's not going to be amazing, but
he was already on 6 on the play. I think that's pretty tough. And then I'm not sure you actually want Revelation in your opener, because a lot of times this is going to happen to you.
Yeah.
And it's actually nice not having one yet, because you know that if they have Slaughter Games, they're going to play it on as soon as they can, basically inevitably. It's a kind of the typical Jund line. And they're going to name Search Revelation, so you don't lose a card at least from your hand this way.
Yeah, and this is a great start for Orrin because Nick's hand is basically just creature removal, which isn't great against cards like Rakdos Return or Garruk Primal Hunter.
Which are his trumps here. We can see as he thumbs through the deck here, both clones are in the deck. We saw at least 2 Thundermaws and an Aurelia so far. I haven't noticed any Augur Boluses, but I may have just missed them. But it looks like he kind of took out the pillars. Looks like he took out maybe even all the Searing Spears, which is more or less what we expected.
Yeah, and Azorius Charm, again, I don't think it's great in this matchup, but I do like having a couple of copies just because it can deal with cards like, you can't just lose to Olivia.
Yeah, Olivia getting out of hand, you want to be able to reset that. Looking at Orrin's main deck now, the things he might be sideboarding out, do you think he wants to take out Ground Seal? I mean, Nick still has 3 Snapcaster Mages, or probably has some number of Snapcasters. Orrin doesn't know the full details. Is it worth leaving Ground Seal, or do you think those get the
No, I don't like Ground Seal in this matchup. I don't love Vampire Nighthawk. I don't really love Bonfire in this matchup either, even though it won him the first game. Generally, I don't think it really does that much.
I agree. So I think those are all easy cuts. Although, the one thing with the Nighthawks, they are good against Aurelia.
That's true, but I think Orrin has enough removal where he's not that concerned about Aurelia.
Spot removal?
Yeah, I think his game plan is just overwhelm Nick with discard and then use my removal on your few threats, because there's really not that many cards he has to deal with.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense to the game plan. Interesting, Huntmasters here still. Those, I mean, obviously, a nice way to apply pressure.
Yeah, and it looks like Nick's going to be forced to Mizium Mortars here. He does have a Restoration Angel.
But he can't let that Huntmaster flip, I think.
So I think he has to just cast Mizium Mortars here.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow, so he does allow it to flip.
Again, taking a kind of an ambitious
line.
line.
Well, again, I don't think it's that bad because he has the Mizium Mortars, so he could overload the Mizium Mortars next turn.
True.
So if Orrin, if Orrin has a Garruk Primal Hunter, it's actually completely reasonable for him to just play Primal Hunter, make a 3/3, and then Nick will be able to cast a Restoration Angel, so attack it down to 1 and then Mizium Mortars.
So I think Orrin probably going to attack with both creatures here, just try to see if that resto comes out. He drew a Slaughter Games, and he knows about that Mortars in Nick's hand, so he might just use it as an expensive duress here.
Well, he knows the Mortars is in hand, and he didn't use it on the Huntmaster. He allowed the Huntmaster to flip, so he's got to expect that. Okay, well the Overload's coming. Do I just Slaughter Games getting rid of Mortars now? Is it worth it? Do I do it main phase to see if there is a Restoration Angel?
Ooh, and the Wolf Run makes it so that the resto can't even block the Wolf token here profitably. So yeah, he has to take the damage now, and now I think we're going to see that Slaughter Games get cast. Now, he does have a choice here. He's one named Thundermaw and Hellkite, take out one of Nick's remaining win conditions. Or does he take out the Mortars? I think it's pretty hard not to take the Mortars.
I like taking the Mortars here. You know you're going to hit, and your creature and your 4/4 is going to stay in play. So
I think it's pretty hard to resist that when you're already so far ahead on cards. Yeah, you have to do that.
I think it's worth it, and especially if you have a Wolf Run in play. I mean, your threat. Nick's already at 12 life, so
looks like at least 2 Searing Spears and 2 Azorius Charms still in Nick's deck here after sideboard. So probably shaved both those numbers down a little bit. Might even have all 3 Spears in.
It looks like he has Aurelius Fury in his deck too, which is something that we see a lot of.
One in his mid deck. So actually, Roberto Gonzalez, who finished 9th at the Pro Tour on tiebreaks, was playing at least 1, maybe even 2 Aurelius Furies in his blue-white-red list. I know it wasn't very common. I didn't know if anyone else was really doing that, but did to great effect, actually.
So Resto Angel comes into play at the end of the turn, and Nick draws no miracles. He draws a Rewind, a little too late to the party.
Yeah, the damage is on the board here.
At this point, I think Orrin's probably comfortable with just going all in on a Keswick Wolf Run.
Yep. He's gone through, he's kind of seen how many Azorius Charms are in the deck. It's the only card he's worried about with respect to his 4/4. Because Searing Spear will not do it. He's seen there's only 2. I would be surprised if he did not. Maybe he doesn't play the Shockland untapped. Maybe he doesn't go quite that deep on it.
Yeah, I don't think he needs to. I think he's got the turn 2 kill regardless. He might be a little afraid of a top deck Aurelia, so he doesn't want to get his life total too low.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking as well.
So looks like I'm not sure what it's in Orrin's hand, but
it's 2 lands and maybe a spell. I couldn't see the 3rd card, but it's definitely 2 lands. I do wonder what he's thinking about here, because it looks like he's playing with 4 mana. But he wouldn't play another Huntmaster if he had one. You don't want to play in a Supreme Court like that.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Nick attacked with the Restoration Angel is concerning Orrin a little bit. Maybe he's like, well, why didn't
the
he
murder,
at least,
right? Of course,
why didn't he? Yeah. Well, no, he made him discard the mortar.
Murder. Sorry,
Oh, murder.
Orrin's last
Yeah,
card is
okay.
murder. So Orrin's going to do here. He's just going to Wolf Run for 2 and then leave up murder.
Yeah.
To protect against any of those kind of Aurelia shenanigans.
Well, he can Wolf Run for 1, I believe.
Oh, sorry, yes, just for 1.
And he has murder in case Aurelia comes down.
Yep.
Or a Thundermaw or something like that. Okay.
So not quite leaving both guys lethal for the next turn, but pretty close.
Yeah, because Nick's at 5 now. So.
Nick now can flip back that Ravager of the Fells.
Yeah, so he has to think twice. He could draw a Supreme Verdict.
That would be the
pretty
dream.
good draw right here.
That is the wait. Did you say go? He can't be saying go.
I think he has to try to at least dig for a Supreme Verdict right here,
or at least flip back the Ravager of the Fells, so it doesn't say it. Or he might still just be dead even if he does that.
Yeah,
he's so confused.
He can murder at the end. Did he pass? Or?
He passed. These lines, I don't.
Wow. So yeah, that does seem strange. I think unless maybe he boarded out one of his Supreme Verdicts.
If
like
he knows there's only one.
If he knows he only has one, but still.
Don't you still have to dig for like one of your many creatures?
So another thing twice.
So we'll just rewind this murder.
You can rewind the murder, and then he can flash back the think twice this turn. Well, either way, the Huntmaster is going to flip no matter what. So Huntmaster flips. So not a bad situation. He's got a blocker, but again, he's going to have to cast think twice and hope to draw a Searing Spear.
Yep.
Because the Wolf Run's still threatening lethal here, or an Azorius Charm.
And Orrin can actually, let's see, can he? Yeah, he can. No, okay. I was thinking he might actually be able to Wolf Run the blocked wolf or the blocked creature to make sure he can still do 2 regardless and still represent lethal. And can he right now? So it's 2 to kill. Yeah, he can, if he played the land, that wolf is summoning sick. Should have played the land first, I think, untapped, because then he could have just Wolf Run the blocked guy to trample over for 3, and that
currently
way
he's only he would only be able to trample over.
Now if Nick hits the Searing Spear, it's actually Orrin's down to 1 guy left.
Yeah.
Granted, still has Wolf Run in play, still not a great spot for Nick, but much worse than if he had played that land and could pump the blocked wolf.
Yeah, definitely. I think, so only 7 mana. He might try to just go all in.
I assume he's going to just go for lethal here on the unblocked one. Oh, no, okay.
No, he's playing it safe.
Yep, so I actually like that line. Just admit the fact that he probably should have played the land. Okay, we'll just put you to 1. Put you 1 with a Huntmaster in play. That's not a bad spot. Has to be Searing Spear, and
nope,
is not. Extends that. Nope. Sorry, not dead. He's going to 1, as we discussed. All right.
And that's why I kind of like it if Nick would have blocked the Huntmaster there.
It definitely should have blocked Huntmaster, I thought.
Yeah. So he does draw an Azorius Charm, but still not quite good enough. He's going to have to dig again. To try
needs
to
to hit a Supreme Verdict, which may or may not even be in the deck at this point.
Yeah.
And Orrin probably knows, actually. He probably looked as he went through, so Orrin might realize there's no Supreme Verdicts.
Yeah, he probably knows.
I still think not playing that land was a small mistake, but not a huge one at all.
Oh, well, it Rails Fury. Interesting.
And he has not played a land yet, so he actually will be able to Fury the Huntmaster for 2, killing it, and then the other 2 for 1 each tapping.
So they won't be able to attack that turn, so it gives him another turn. He still has, and he won't be able to cast the Huntmaster in his hand because of Aurelia Fury. Aurelia Fury, you kind of...
That wolf should be dead, right? The one that got blocked by Restoration Angel. Didn't they trade?
I believe so, yeah. I believe the wolf token should be dead.
Hopefully we can signal that over there. I just sort of assumed it was not in play. Because we were talking about how awkward it was. Now he'll be able to go ahead and kill both the Wolf Token and the Huntmaster.
Yeah, so he can kill both creatures in play.
Yep, there we go.
If he does it on the upkeep, Orrin won't even be able to cast any spells that turn. And then he's able to untap. He'll still have an Azorius Charm and another Think Twice in his graveyard. So pretty good draw for Nick.
Yeah. Orrin not killing Nick last turn might come back to haunt him here. It looks like it probably wouldn't matter, but Aurelius Fury could be the difference maker.
Yeah,
here.
the fact that Aurelius Fury is so much better than Supreme Verdict right here.
I'm still pretty happy with. It is awkward he can't ping Orrin for 1 as part of it because he needs to kill both the creatures, I think.
Yeah.
Yep, just 2 to each of them. Go ahead and ends their lives. So now, he's still dead to a Rakdos Return, being at 1 life, but okay, just a Thragtusk.
Thragtusk, and he has a Huntmaster in his hand here, so I think he probably just plays Huntmaster. Or no,
it's just Thragtusk, I think, because that way if he wraths, you get the token back and it's still lethal.
Yeah, the Huntmaster can just kill him though, right? If he doesn't have a spell, he
Sure.
can just flip.
But we know he's a thing twice in the graveyard,
It's true.
so it's never flipping. And I think you want it this way. Like, what's Nick going to have here?
Yeah, you just want something to play.
A blocker won't do it because of Wolf Run. A removal spell doesn't do it because of the token. He has like Searing Spear in the upkeep.
He has an Azorius Charm in his hand. Oh, wow. There it is.
This game is turning around.
Wow. Perfect draw. Aurelius Fury into clone. So suddenly, Nick Spagnola, even if Orrin goes all in with a Wolf Run, Nick also has an Azorius Charm still in his hand.
For two different possibilities. One, he can do the lifelink mode to gain 5, or can just put that Thractus back on top. Depends on how much mana Orrin wants to tap here, because Orrin should definitely leave up enough to replay that. He definitely wants to be able to replay his...
I believe he has another Thractus and a Huntmaster in his hand.
Or can he threaten lethal here, though? If he can threaten lethal, he might be tempted to go for it.
Well, we've seen him be somewhat cautious in the past. So
he can do 7 here. If he moves in, he does 7. And he's moving the mana up to do the 6. He's going for it. Wow. Not going to go well for him.
So what does Nick do here? Does he gain the 5 life? So it looks like he's just targeting. Yeah, so he puts on top of the library. So stays at 6.
The hard part here, though, is, I mean, Orrin has so many good cards in his hand that you can't 1-for-1 with, and Nick doesn't have Revelations left. So how does he pull ahead in this game? I don't...
Yeah, and really you know, Nick has another Thractus in his hand. He's drawing a Thractus next turn. He still has a Huntmaster, too.
Yeah, he's going to play... Ooh, but there's Restoration Angel.
Wow, Nick is drawing some really, really good cards right now in a row.
So here, the awkward thing is there's no Thractus can play to copy when the clone blinks back in. So it's a little dangerous if he just plays Resto and just blocks the beast.
Well, he can block the beast. See what? So
just announcing that he has. So I think what he's hoping here is that Orrin will read him for the Searing Spear and will not try to kill him.
Yeah.
And will just hit him for 3 and play Thragtusk, and that's going to be an awesome. Oh, it's actually a Dreadbore in Orrin's hand, not a second Thragtusk.
So, but Nick can still cast a Restoration Angel targeting the clone. He'll get the 3/3 beast, and then he can just target the Restoration Angel when it comes in. So it's still pretty good shape for Nick here, even if Orrin doesn't play a creature before combat.
Right, because he can't. He can't Wolf Run for enough to make it lethal through the Restoration Angel as a blocker.
Yeah. He only has he can pump it for 5. Should only make it 8, so Nick would only drop to 2.
Yep.
If he just blocks the Restoration.
Interesting thing here. What if he bluffs and just doesn't block? Which is actually in line with how Nick's been playing. Nick's been playing really aggressively. It would not surprise me if he did just not block.
So he just didn't block.
Wow. Which is what I thought was,
Wow. Great
That's a
read
really
by
nice
Nick.
line.
Great read by Nick.
And it's in line, though, with how he's been playing.
Yeah.
He's been playing really aggressive like that the whole time, and here he's getting the maximum value of that clone. And he knows that because he doesn't have those Sphinx Revelations in his deck, he can't win by playing a conventional game.
Yeah.
He can't trade off resources. He's just too far behind. He has no way to get ahead.
And
he needs this to happen.
You know, the fact that Nick attacked,
I think
it set it up. Yeah. I think Orrin basically just is getting... Nick is just playing this game perfectly, and Orrin's just not able to read anything correctly because of the way Nick's playing the game.
Yeah, I thought the attack, Nick was trying to rep a Searing Spear with that attack, and now it's an interesting spot here. What does he want to do? He has the Thragtusk and the Beast on the ground. He's at 8.
He's another Think Twice in his graveyard still.
Let's see what we're thinking.
Oh, wow. Thundermaw.
And another Restoration Angel? So can we get some kind of board state here where we really want to be able to rest. So I think we can. Optimal, obviously, is we can attack with the Thundermaw and the Resto here, and then next turn blink the clone, copy the Thundermaw, and kill him. That's what we want to have happen. I don't think we can quite stay alive though without blocking with our clone. Orrin just has too much damage.
I don't know if that other card is a Restoration Angel. I think it's possible. Although I think it might be a Desolate Lighthouse.
Oh, really? Okay. Oh, yeah, you're right.
So
okay.
Desolate Lighthouse and a Thundermaw. And Orrin is at 24, so it's going to be
really hard to kill him.
Yeah.
And he's still representing a lot of damage. He's representing 13 between the 2 creatures and then the Wolf Run for 5. So, Nick's going to need 6 toughness at least.
And Orrin still has a Huntmaster that's just waiting to come into play.
Something has to attack here. I think the Thundermaw and Hellkite should be attacking.
So +5.
Or both. Okay.
So yeah, they're both coming. So yeah, I think he has enough toughness to withstand a max pump. And it's fine because Orrin would lose both his creatures.
Even if Orrin has
get
a
a
land.
token.
But what we know is Orrin actually has Dreadbore.
Yes.
Which will then be lethal.
Yeah.
I believe. Wait, still have to do the math.
So
yeah, Dreadbore is basically like a +2/+2.
Dreadbore is so it'll be +3, 8. So 5 would come over. Yeah. I believe that is just lethal.
Draws another threat. So Orrin's drawn
with only one red up.
Perfect. But I mean, yeah. Nick played a great game, actually, I think.
Yeah, I thought Nick played this game really, really well. I mean, obviously, he top decked a couple of cards in a row, but he put himself in a position to just maximize all those cards. So yeah, no matter how Nick blocks here, I believe Orrin should have enough for lethal here. Keswick Wolf Run.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good card. It's
very,
a good magic card.
Yeah, very, very good card.
And there's the hand.
And there's the hand. Wow. Nick did everything he could.
Really nice game, yeah.
And Clone, you called it. Very, very, very interesting card in this matchup. Nearly pulled it out there.
And had that something.
If it was a Restoration Angel, he
Instead
probably.
he might have.
I mean, Orrin was drawing threat after threat after threat, so it would be interesting to see. But yeah, Thundermaw. You know, he knocked his life down to 18. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see.
Imagine that was an Aurelia instead of a Thundermaw. I mean,
oh wow, yeah.
That was an exciting visual game. It looked pretty over after the slaughter games on the Museum Orders. I thought that game was just done.
Yeah.
But nice play there by Nick. Unfortunately, not quite enough. Falling to Orrin Beasley in 2 games. And we may have cut another match here. I'm not sure.